And I'm here with Sally and with all of you.
Can be in front of the computer so people can see?
Well, I'm not so sure how my voice is projecting.
I hear you.
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Really? Okay, so should I start again?
Yeah.
So I'm Lori Grace, and I welcome you here, and I am the executive director of Sunrise Center for many, many years. Started in the 1990s. How about it?
Yay.
And I met Sally a long time ago, maybe 25 years ago or so. We were trying to figure it out. And I learned about her dream, which was to develop a peace forest for the bonobos. And I helped with some initial donations and directed her to Threshold Foundation, and where she continued. And then she went really big because there's a lot of people who care about bonobos. And now you'll know why when you listen to her. And I do want to let you know we're going to do a Zoom fundraiser, and we're going to do an in-person one here too. And some special little treats for all of you who took the time to drive over here, okay? And so I do want to share something very special. Is the female bonobo has been my spirit animal in shamanic ceremonies or whatever else. And I was also a tantra teacher for many, many years. And it's also the female dolphin is another one. And I so love how the bonobos created such a peaceful society. And how they did it, I'm going to leave up to Sally. But I just want to say, hi, Sally, welcome here. And you get started with your special presentation. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Wow. Well, thanks, and hi, everyone. Great to be back. And greetings to all you Zoomers from the Global Peace Tribe. Very, very honored to have you with us tonight as well. Anyway, as Laurie said, we have a little few treats after the talk, and plenty of time for questions and discussion as well. So I've dedicated my life to saving bonobos, but now I've come to believe that bonobos can save us. I first learned about bonobos when I was senior copywriter at National Geographic back in the early 1990s. I was assigned to work on a book project about the great apes. And of course, I'd heard about gorillas and I knew about chimpanzees and orangutans, but I was absolutely blown away to learn that there was a fourth great ape, the bonobo, who was so remarkably like humans and in the most astonishing ways. I was like, excuse me? Oops, wait a minute. Let me make sure I can. Okay. I was like, excuse me? You mean there's an ape that looks more human-like than the others, lives in a peaceful, cooperative society where the women rule the roost, is highly intelligent, and has sex all the time? It's like, what? Sort of blew everything I'd learned in college about what made us human. So I'd never heard of bonobo, and now more than 30 years later, still most people don't even know they exist, yet they are our closest relatives. Bonobos are so different from chimpanzee, our other closest relative, the one we're usually compared to. According to evolutionary theory, we are equally related, sharing a common ancestor. So the human line went off in one direction, and bonobo and chimp split off in the other, producing the two species. While similar in some ways, bonobos and chimps are polar opposites in others. Chimpanzees have a patriarchal, male-dominated, and competitive society. They are the only primate besides us humans that wage violent, premeditated, and lethal attacks on others of their own kind, usually over territory and natural resources. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Same thing most of our wars are fought over, including the ones happening right now. Bonobo groups, on the other hand, share territory and resources instead of fighting over them. Among bonobos, the females are in charge. Their society is matriarchal, peaceful, and more egalitarian. So when bonobo groups meet up in the forest, they greet their neighbors, share a feast, and have a little love fest. Because bonobos are the only primate besides us that have sex, not just for procreation, but for recreation, for bonding, to reduce stress and resolve conflicts, and simply for pleasure. Bonobos make a lot of love, and they do so in every form and fashion, including with members of either gender. And so in essence, bonobos are bisexual. So what do you think that says about what may or may not be normal for our species? Beyond that, there is no sexual coercion in bonobo land. This is in stark contrast to chimpanzee society, in which females are forced to mate with the ranking males and often are battered in the process. Among bonobos, females are free to choose their mates. They make alliances with each other, sealed by sexual bonds of their own. In fact, female-female sex is the most common kind of sex in bonobos. And that's how they keep the physically stronger males in check, and bond together. Sure, they have spats and skirmishes every now and then. It's not complete utopia in bonobo land, but when they do, they kiss and make up. So bonobos are really all about peace and love, and that's why they're called the hippie chimps. They really do exemplify the 1960s credo of love, not war. So it's as if bonobos and chimps represent the yin and yang of human nature, Venus and Mars. I am sharing screen. Is it not showing?
Got it.
Okay. So yeah, it's like they represent the yin and yang of human nature. Venus and Mars, the female and the male paradigms. Is something wrong? Oh, okay. All right. So right in front of our eyes, we see the two sides of ourselves demonstrated in our closest primate relatives. At this time in our own cultural evolution as a species, facing existential crises of our own making, we humans would be wise to take a cue from the bonobo from the bonobo playbook in order to save ourselves, our planet, and live happier, more harmonious lives. So as a student of psychology and a hippie at heart myself, I found something I could really believe in with bonobos. I was so smitten that I quit my job at National Geographic to pursue my new passion. I had the good fortune to spend a whole summer with the Albert Einstein of bonobos, Kanzi. Hello. Sadly, Kanzi passed away last year at age 44, but he was a rock star. He even jammed with Peter Gabriel and Paul McCartney, and he got pretty good at Pac-Man and even Minecraft too. But his biggest claim to fame was that he broke the language barrier. You could talk to him. He understood lots of spoken English, and he could talk back. Bonobos can't speak the way we do because of the anatomy of their throats. So a brilliant psychologist, Dr. Sue Savage Rumbaugh, invented a sign language using lexicograms or symbols representing words the bonobos could use to speak with us. It was such a magical experience to enter their world. I remember one day playing hide and go seek with Kanzi's sister, Pambanisha, who you see here, crouching down on the riverbank, holding hands, looking each other in the eyes, while the researcher on the prowl was calling for us. So we were like, shoot, and I felt just like I used to as a kid, playing in the woods or hide and go seek. So after that, we settled down for some grooming. Pambanisha gently inspected my face, my hands, my hair. Then she picked a twig and sharpened it with her teeth and traced underneath each fingernail.
Oh.
And then she proceeded to bite them all off. It's bonobo manicure. Yes. Yeah. So Kanzi and Pambanisha were not only my first bonobo teachers, but they became beloved friends. And from that point on, I was hooked. Although it's taken a while for modern science to discover the depth of our relationship with bonobos and the fact that we share almost 99% of the same DNA. The indigenous people, the indigenous people in the Congo forest have recognized it all along. The first time I went to the habitat in 1994, I learned the local language Lingala, which was perhaps the smartest thing I've ever done because it's made all the difference in understanding their world. I was particularly fascinated by the indigenous legends about bonobos that have been passed down through the generations and have perpetuated taboos against hunting them. One of my favorites goes like this. One day, God, or Zambe, called all the animals to come get their tails. When it was the bonobo's turn in line, he got an itch on his back and stood up on 2 feet to scratch it. God took one look at him and said, "Well, I cannot give you a tail, for you are not an animal. You are a man." Bonobos think that's a good one. And they do laugh and smile too. But despite our close kinship, tragically, bonobos are being hunted by people for food, smoked and sold for meat. This is the greatest threat to their survival, along with habitat loss from logging and deforestation. Bonobos are endangered. As few as 15,000 remain today. That's not even enough to fill the seats in Madison Square Garden. I realize that we have so much to learn from bonobos, and time is running out to save them from extinction. So together with an amazing group of people, I co-founded the Bonobo Conservation Initiative in 1998. Our mission is to protect bonobos, preserve their habitat, and empower communities in the Congo Basin. Bonobos are found in only one country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. They inhabit the heart of the world's second largest rainforest, one of the lungs of the earth. The Congo forest is now the largest terrestrial carbon sink on the planet, surpassing even the Amazon. But if deforestation continues at the current rates, this vast forest will be gone by the turn of the century. Sequestering billions of tons of carbon and harboring vital watersheds, it provides ecosystem services that are essential to mitigating climate change and sustaining all life. We simply can't live without it. Bonobos occupy the last bastion, some of the most remote territory remaining on Earth. As a keystone species, bonobos play a major role in maintaining the health of the forest. Laced with waterways and brimming with biodiversity, more than half the plant and animal species in Africa are found here. Yet, in the midst of such untold beauty and natural riches, the Congo has been the scene of some of the worst atrocities this world has ever known. Back-to-back wars from 1996 to 2003 took more than 5 million lives, more than any war since World War II. Yes, and most people don't know that. Tens of thousands of women were raped as a weapon of war. This devastating conflict also increased pressure on wildlife with the influx of guns. So it was in this context, as the Congo War was winding down, that we began our work for conservation, considering how can we best protect bonobos and preserve their rainforest home. At that point, we didn't even know where bonobos existed in viable numbers. It was really like searching for a needle in a haystack. This is the bonobo habitat. You can see the area shaded there in the light green. And at that time, there were only a few, intrepid pioneering research projects where bonobos were studied and some anecdotal evidence. So we had a challenge. But what we did know was that we needed to start with the people who share the forest with the bonobos. So we began at the grassroots. with deep listening and learning from the local people who know their own forest and their own needs best. At that time, the bonobo habitat was controlled by 3 warring factions, so we had the idea of a peace park. But in our discussions, the Congolese said, no, we do not want another national park where you draw a boundary and throw the people out. That won't work. People live here. So we realized that we needed a holistic approach that worked within the culture, building on indigenous knowledge and traditions rather than imposing top-down, externally derived solutions. So that is how our vision for the Bonobo Peace Forest was born, a network of community forests supported by sustainable development, a model that addresses both conservation and humanitarian needs simultaneously. Named in honor of the Bonobos' peaceful society, the Peace Forest serves as a source of inspiration and hope, and it provides a practical framework for peace by following the bonobos' own example of cooperation, partnership, and sharing of resources. And they really have become a flagship in the Congo, which of course has seen such horrible conflict. So our motto is Sally sa bonobo, hey bonobo bako sali sa yo. That means help bonobos and bonobos will help you. Many indigenous legends are about how bonobos helped the ancestors in the distant past, showing them what foods to eat, even medicinal plants, and more. Saving the man when he's caught in a tree. There are all kinds of amazing stories. So one of the first things we did was to broadcast radio shows featuring those stories to reinforce the traditional taboos which had been breaking down during the war. Radio is the only means of public communication that reaches the bonobo habitat. There's no electricity, no running water, and very little cash economy. It's really, in many ways, like going back in time. Infrastructure is broken down or non-existent. So smoked bushmeat is one of the only commodities that can survive long journeys to market on foot, loaded on a bike, or in a dugout canoe. People have little means of livelihood. So if they need money for medicine or to pay school fees for their children, one of the only options is to kill an animal and sell it. This situation is fueling the commercial bushmeat trade that is decimating all wildlife throughout Central Africa. But bonobos are particularly susceptible because they only have one offspring every 5 years. So if you kill a bunch of bonobos, they don't bounce back. Our work really kicked off at Kokolo Peri, where the Bongondo people revere the bonobos as kin. There, we forged a strong partnership with the local NGO Vie Sauvage and the community, pooling our resources and developing solutions together. One of the first things we did was to hire and train and equip local trackers and survey teams who monitor bonobos in the forest. The trackers at Kokolo Peri followed 3 groups of bonobos for a decade, paving the way for a long-term research program now led by Harvard University. It's making groundbreaking discoveries like this one. Bonobos are starting to get famous for their spirit of cooperation. They even made the front page of the New York Times. That was a few years ago, but I must say it's better than most of the headlines we've been seeing recently. In tandem with the work in the forest, we collaborate with communities to address their needs. At Kokolo Peri, people had no access to health care, so we established a health clinic. Their staple crop was stricken with a disease, so we partnered with an agricultural expert to provide seed stocks and training in sustainable farming techniques, increasing yields while at the same time reducing impact on the forest. We've helped to empower women through scholarships and microcredit opportunities. And in response to the local people's request for an Institute of Higher Learning in the region, we co-founded a technical college, which is now accredited, preparing the next generation of conservation leaders. These efforts and more led to the official establishment of 2 protected areas to date, the Kokolopuri Bonobo Reserve and the Sankuru Reserve. Together, they span 9 million acres. That's about the size of Massachusetts and Rhode Island combined. Sankuru is actually a little bit larger than the old colonial power Belgium, which I think is poetic justice because and we're working to decolonialize conservation with a more alternative model than the old guns and guards approach.
Well, women, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So what's so amazing is that these reserves were initiated by the local people themselves. They blazed the trail, pioneering a new paradigm for community-based conservation in the Congo. Seeing the example of Kokolopuri, surrounding communities became inspired to protect their bonobos, initiate their own community reserves, and join the Peace Forest network. So those are the 2 that are officially created so far. These in orange are in process to be protected as community forests. We're making a lot of progress at Lilungu, and which links, and these in yellow are in the 3rd tier where we have agreements and have discovered bonobos. And in these intervening 25 or so years, other protected areas have also been established that are linking up with this big corridor that we're working on establishing.
Is that your work or someone else's?
Our work is what's inside the Peace Forest. Salonga National Park was there. It was pre-existing. It was one of the oldest parks in Africa. But the others that you see in dark green were all created in the past 25
I don't
years.
see that up there. You mean blue?
Well, it might be hard to see the little red line that's showing the corridor. It might be kind of hard to see it. Anyway, but it's a huge, it's so important to connect the habitat because part of the problem is fragmentation. So not only for bonobos, but for all wildlife. So, corridors are really important for wildlife to be able to be sustained. I also want to point out that all these areas where we work, there is a strong local leader and a community organization, or at least one, that we work with in partnership. So it's, there's a lot of impact community by community with really great leaders. So in this way, the Bonobo Peace Forest is actually self-replicating. Author Denis Béchard calls this phenomenon viral conservation in a book he wrote about our work, which is an award-winning book, and an article in the Solutions Journal. While all of these efforts need to be scaled up, we've proven that our community-based partnership model does work and can ultimately be self-sustaining, especially as new market-based financing mechanisms and nature-based solutions are coming online that compensate local communities for the global services their forests provide. Notably, this includes carbon credits, REDD+, reduced emissions from deforestation and degradation, seems to be the most viable option to produce sustainable income at scale and is made to order for our model because the most of the benefits will be channeled directly to the local communities. It's where we've been focusing some of our efforts these days because we're really looking at ways to sustain this work and expand it. Also biodiversity credits are on the horizon, and there's even a new initiative for bonobo credits that's been suggested in the DRC. So our goal is to expand the link for protected areas of habitat corridors. And when we do, you will be able to see the Bonobo Peace Forest from space. The Peace Forest has been endorsed by the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo and by dozens of local communities. It was honored as a finalist in the Buckminster Fuller Challenge for providing sustainable solutions to problems we face here on spaceship Earth. And I'm thrilled, just even on this trip, I've just met with the Buckminster Fuller Institute, and we're coming full circle. They have a new design lab. And so we're discussing working with them again to plan the next phase of the Peace Forest, which is awesome. Yeah, I'm really thrilled about that. I know. And most recently, our longtime partner, Visovage, won the UN Equator Prize. This prestigious award celebrates indigenous communities for innovative strategies that combat biodiversity loss and climate change. About 80% of all the biodiversity remaining on the planet is on indigenous lands. So it's not a moment too soon that the world is finally waking up to recognize that local and indigenous people are the best stewards of their ancestral land. So many communities are stepping up to protect their forests and the bonobos within, and they really just need a helping hand. So in our work to protect bonobos, we also rescue orphans, which are the tragic byproduct of the bushmeat trade. Hunters kill the mothers and try to sell the babies as pets. This is Iboko. One day, we spotted a guy riding a bike down the street holding a baby bonobo and tore out after him. Like most hunters, he didn't know it was against the law to hunt bonobos. He didn't know they were endangered and only found in his country. And in fact, when we first got started, the provincial police weren't even informed that it was against the law or that bonobos were endemic to their country and the closest relative of human. So Iboko served as an ambassador and the police became our allies. Iboko was so weak, dehydrated, and traumatized. She stayed largely attached to my body for a whole week. We ate together, played together, peed together, and sometimes she peed on me, and slept together. The last day, we had to get up early to fly to Kinshasa to deliver her to the orphanage there. When the alarm went off at 5 a.m., I was groping around in the dark under the mosquito net, and it wasn't where I put it. So finally, I found my flashlight, and I saw that Iboko had grabbed the alarm clock, and she was sitting down at the foot of the bed, poking at it, scrutinizing it, trying to figure out what is this strange contraption that's making so much noise. But it struck me that the alarm really is going off for their species. And if we don't stop giving in to our own worst instincts, the alarm is going off for us as well. We must act now before it's too late. By protecting bonobos and expressing the bonobo side of ourselves, we can meet this moment, and together we can create a better world. So, thank you. Well, I wanted to share one more thing because a lot of really it's the local efforts are the thing that drives it all. And they're what makes it go viral too. So we do have a new project and you guys get to taste right peppercorns. Sorry, Zoom people. We have another treat for you though. Um, peppercorns that grow wild on vines in the rainforest, and they are absolutely delicious. They have a special perfume and flavor. We had them analyzed by Penzi Spices, and they are a different type of black peppercorn that isn't available in the United States, and I don't believe in Europe either. So it's something that, might really be a viable project. So this is what they look like when they're cut down. And then they slowly, get dried and turn black. This is LeBlanc, the best boat driver in the Congo, and our chief of operations, Bienvenue, back there in the red shirt. But we had spread them all out and dry them in the sun. Takes a while. But, peppercorns, yeah, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, so how is the government involved in
conserving bonobos? Are they pro, or are they really
Oh.
into it, or are they?
They are supportive, absolutely. But that was a big education. Zoom people, she asked if the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo is supportive of bonobo conservation. And in the early days, we were educating ministers. Even the Minister of the Environment, when I first got started, didn't know. So the Congo has made great strides, and they're actually very conservation minded, and they see themselves as a solution country for climate change. So, and this initiative about the bonobo credits that's just emerged was, partly endorsed and created by the Congolese government. So they actually are very supportive. Yeah, but it's taken some years for education and for things to catch up.
What's the difference between a bonobo credit and a carbon credit?
Well, carbon credit is actually a real market, for one thing. Bonobo credit is a concept at this point, but biodiversity credits also there's a whole lot of activity going on to try to get a standard measurement that is marketable. With carbon credits, it's taken almost 20 years for those standards to be really set up for avoided deforestation. And it's complex, measurement, monitoring, very stringent standards. But it basically, they pay for the avoided deforestation that would have happened if it wasn't for the carbon credits, the funds coming in. But anyway, back to peppercorns. Berkeley University, right around the corner over there, a student group a couple of years ago, when we were just getting into this peppercorn idea, they took this on. We did a consulting with the student group, and they did a preliminary market survey on the viability of this project. So you can see some of their results. Pepper is a commodity, and one of the cool things is that we think it could be saleable, outside of the DRC, something that could be exported to support conservation, because it doesn't weigh very much. You could fill a suitcase up with peppercorns and sell the bottles for $5 to $10 in developed countries, so that when you're paying pennies for it in the forest. So we're exploring this idea and looking for some other students or MBA, postdoc people to help us put together a good plan.
So ultimately, you need investors to make that happen, though.
We do. Our step now is to do a more thorough feasibility analysis. So anyway.
Question for.
Yes.
Far in the future, but the country right next door, Rwanda, took the idea of ecotourism and it's really altered it. Is the local governments looking at that, or the infrastructure is so far gone at this point that it's just pie in the sky to try to invite people in to see bonobos on the ecotourism to generate revenue for the locals and for the government?
Ecotourism is part of our planning for sustainability. Ted Turner actually invested in it about a decade ago, and he was planning to come visit us in Kokolo-Puri. And he got Abercrombie and Kent to come and do a feasibility study with us. We got the permits to put in an airstrip, and then Ted Turner got sick. And truly, it's complex, but it's doable. It'll probably be smaller groups of ecotourists. You have to be in good shape to go visit bonobos in the forest. It's not like going to see the mountain gorillas, where they've made, the tourism has practically saved the mountain gorilla. But in that case, the mountain gorillas are slow moving. They sit down, they start munching on bamboo, and they don't move very much. But bonobos they're the most acrobatic of all the apes. And so they're up in the trees and down on the ground, and they can move faster than we can in any of those modes. So, and they do stop and, eat at a fruiting tree. They usually take a siesta every afternoon. But we follow them from the minute they get up in the morning. You've got to follow them under their night nest until they make their night nest, so you know where to go the next morning. So, yep.
Doing about two things you said, the biggest threat to and deforestation.
Well, what we're doing is working, is protecting their habitat officially so that it can't be exploited. So there's no logging in these reserves that we've created, and working with the local people to protect their bonobos, which is the best protection.
Knowledge police force stopping the hunting.
Well, there needs to be more in the areas where the communities are really engaged and being supported. They don't want hunters encroaching on their forest. So in some areas we do need patrols, that are more like eco guards, than just the local bonobo monitors. There's some places where the outside hunters are coming in. But what we're doing is working from the inside out. So whole communities see it is in their best benefit, or it's rekindling their own ancestral protection of bonobos. So
Who owns
actually the state, but
would it be such that they would sell it off to a private enterprise so that they could deforest it, they could log it?
well, in some areas that has happened. Definitely. There's been a logging moratorium in the DRC, but there are big chunks of bonobo habitat that have logging concessions. In fact, when we first got started, almost the whole thing was carved up into logging concessions on a map. And luckily, when there was a new forest code in about 2012, most of those they were rescinded. Some of them were really relics of the previous political regime, and there was a much stronger support, partly from the United States at the time. Colin Powell initiated the Congo Basin Forest Partnership, and USAID, which, rest in peace, did implement, funding, and it was actually international. Other countries got involved because they recognized, the United States, even under the George Bush administration, recognized that climate change is the #1 security threat to the US. So it was definitely in our best interest to keep the second lung of the planet breathing, and the biodiversity too, that keeps everything going. So yeah, I don't know if I think I answered your question. Okay, thanks. Yeah, Scott?
Sally, just would like to repeat the question when people ask.
Okay. Apologies.
And
Okay.
there is a question from the Zoom room.
Okay.
Asking, how do bonobos get along with chimps and other forms of gorillas?
Yeah, good question.
Well, should I stop sharing and so we can see the Zoom people? Bring them on into the room a little more? Does that work? Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, how do bonobos get along with chimps and other forms of gorilla?
Okay, well, first of all, there are 4 species of great ape: bonobo, chimpanzee, gorilla, and orangutan. So a lot of people think great apes are gorillas, but actually all 4 of them are great apes. But the thing is, bonobos don't, if I could show the map again, you saw how the Congo River makes a big arc, and the bonobo habitat is just south. They're the left bank chimps, but the chimpanzees and the gorillas live north of the river. So in the wild, they never interact. And that's actually one of the theories as to why bonobos are so peaceful, is because they don't have to compete with gorillas for food. Chimpanzees have to compete for food with gorillas because they share the same habitat. So it's yeah, so that is actually a theory that Dr. Richard Wrangham purported in his book called Demonic Males, where he talks about bonobos. Yeah.
Right. A like strictly bonobo question, which is I read about there being some evidence discovered of bonobos like reading more subtle facial expressions with nonverbal communication.
That's very true.
Wow.
The woman, what's your name?
Carla.
Carla. Yeah, Carla is saying that she's read about bonobos being sensitive to nonverbal communication, body language, facial expression, etc. And they really, really are. They're they're very, very perceptive. In the forest, I've noticed, for example, if we're feeling good, and also they love to share food. They share food and get it on with each other and get very excited when they're eating together. And when we've gone out in the forest and, bring a little picnic or some coffee and food to share, waiting for them to wake up in the morning, they are so interested in us. And so they come to watch us. But if other times we've been, with stressed out person, we were there with one time with a reporter from Time Magazine, who had just come out of the Iraq War. And the guy was really PTSD traumatized. So, and he was very large and he was wearing a bright red shirt. So we went out in the forest with him. He was a great guy and all, but his energy, we had a hard time with the bonobos that day because they really react to to our energy and to our feelings and emotions. And in captive studies, bonobos have been found to be very empathetic. For example, they will, if one bonobo sees another bonobo, if he gets a treat or some food and the other one doesn't have it, they will actually share. Or if they know if you open this door, you can get the food, they would show the other bonobo. So, which is something that chimps probably wouldn't do. I love chimpanzees too. I don't mean to chimp bash, but bonobos really are very empathetic and sensitive.
Must feel like sex.
Yeah, I know. Got a lot of oxytocin going.
You said you were thinking of them. Are there any colors that they cannot see? As you mentioned, they were alarmed by the red.
There's a question about bonobos if they can perceive the same colors that we do and if there are any that they can't. As far as I know, they see the same colors we see, but I don't know for certain, if they're seeing exactly what we're seeing. Bonobos in captivity, like Kanzi and Pambanisha, they've done a lot of artwork, and they use different colors and seems to be semi-representational kind of. So yeah, they definitely perceive color. Also, of course, in the forest, the different fruits, have different colors. And so they know they have got an amazing mental map of the forest. Mm-hmm. They are primarily vegetarian. They, they sometimes eat grubs and there have been, it's interesting because only recently there have been some observations of bonobos doing some hunting. But chimpanzees have organized hunting parties and they hunt monkeys and they're very coordinated. With bonobo, it seems to be more opportunistic. But like at Kokolo Puri, we've had them hunting wild flying squirrels, so which they call loquillo, and but it's you know, and the ranking female is usually the one that gets the chow down, but she'll share some too. And there at another site, bonobos have been found to hunt small dikers, small antelope. But once again, it's kind of rare and they don't do it in such a organized, you know, standardized and more often way that the chimps do it. But it is interesting. And we've also had bonobos, if, you know, stealing an animal out of a snare, if humans have set a trap, yeah, bonobos will take it sometimes. I mean, we've seen that happen. So,
But they don't get trapped, which is.
well, they do, and snare removal is a big thing that has to be constantly done. Bonobos have lost, I mean, one of the orphans we rescued had lost a hand. Yeah, they're really dangerous for bonobos. Victor?
Yes, so my question is about mating rituals, and specifically, it seems that human beings adopted a chimpanzee model. We basically model our mating after chimps. How are the mating rituals different in bonobos?
Well, in chimps, they mate only when the female is in estrus. So if we're modeling after chimps, I guess it's made, you know, it's the religious, the Baptists are the people that
Yeah.
can only have sex for procreation. That's basically all it is in chimp land. And in that case, the female chimps they have no choice. They have to mate with the ranking male, and then they'll sneak around and mate with other ranking males to protect themselves and their unborn child, because chimps also commit infanticide. So not all the time, but sometimes a chimp will kill a baby if he doesn't think it's his. I mean, that's our theory of why they do it.
Comment?
Sure.
So, talking about the chimpanzees, that she's always protected and all that, and she was asked if she liked them. She said she didn't. And that she liked, what she liked was, dogs. She actually spoke that way, but I think she was troubled by some of the more warlike behavior. And I know she knew about the bonobos, but she didn't talk actively about them.
Yeah, I think they make chimps look bad. But she did love the chimps, but she did say that the dog was actually her favorite animal.
Reflection of us too.
Yeah.
And also, if you study the first civilizations that were sacred to the goddess in different places in Mesopotamia, Italhuya, other places, you see you see buildings, you don't see hierarchies in the burials. You see a lot of egalitarianism, and you don't find weapons. And they were taken over in the Aryan invasion in 3000 BC, as were the Mesopotamians, who were matriarchal at that time, and had a very peace-loving culture where priestesses were particularly powerful. So,
Maybe next time go up there, sort of.
what, you want me to say it up there?
Well, next time, if you have something to share, if you'd be willing to share it up where Sally is, so the 35 people in this room can hear you.
Okay, well, I can repeat myself.
Do you want to go up?
Sure.
Okay.
Here comes Lori.
Give applause.
So,
Yeah, thank you.
so I heard Jane Goodall asked whether she liked her, the chimpanzees that she took care of. And she took care of them to preserve them, but she didn't really like them. And what she didn't like were the patriarchal habits of war and infanticide and rape of other tribes and things over resources. And she really liked, preferred the bonobos, although she didn't talk a lot publicly about it. But she also said that her favorite animal was a dog, so. Obviously, so, all right, I repeated it
Okay,
myself.
thank you.
All right, you're up.
I know, she was, I mean, she did love the chimps, but she was shocked and dismayed when she observed some of their more violent habits. Yes,
Do they bleed? Do bonobos menstruate and go through menopause and have hormones and endocrine systems and in that matriarchal society, where does that show up?
yes, good question. The question is, do female bonobos bleed? Do they have periods, menstruate? And yes, they do. Yes, and the thing about females is, their genitalia is very large. It's called a swelling. So, female bonobos always have what they call a false estrus. So they are all, it's not that they bleed all the time, but they're receptive to intercourse and sex all the time, like humans.
With estrogen and all of the.
Yes, they have the similar hormones. In fact, it's really interesting. I was telling Natasha this earlier. Some, women that work at the Plankendal Zoo in the Netherlands, where they're captive bonobos, told me that, how women human women, if they all work together in the same office, quite often their cycles will sync up. They'll start having their period at the same time. Well, that happened with the female zookeepers and the bonobos. They started to sync with the bonobo estrus cycle. Yeah, because it's about the same as ours, about 30 days. Mhm.
How long is their pregnancy?
It's about 9 months also. Yeah. I may be a little, off. It might be more like 8, but I'm not, but it's similar to ours.
Do they have their tribe and their midwife bonobos that are the women that or do they go out in the forest, have their baby by themselves? What is the society roles like?
Okay, the question is, do bonobos have midwives or aides when they're giving birth?
The whole sense of the community and.
In the matriarchal sense.
Birthing service, how matriarchal is it really at the birthing process?
Well, actually, usually bonobos go off by themselves to have a baby. But everybody, is really happy when they come back. And everybody wants to see the baby. And the males, I mean, the males do childcare too. So they play with the babies and take care of them. And, the mother is the central caretaker. And that's why bonobos only have one offspring every 5 years, because the female has to carry the baby. The baby can't survive in the forest or move around the forest for those first 4 or 5 years. So it's always carried by the mom. Yeah.
You said it was 90% of their DNA is similar to humans, and I didn't hear that.
No, it's actually 98.7%.
God,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
it is. I mean, we could probably, mate with each other. I mean, it's possible. I mean, we're that close.
Wow. I have a question.
Yeah.
How do the males behave with their sexuality or their relationships, male bonobos, with the females?
Well, okay, yes, thank you. How do the males relate? And that is part of the other question. If a bonobo male wants to have sex with a female, he has to ask. Really, I mean, the female can refuse, and that's also part of the female alliances. If a male is too aggressive, the females gang up on him. So, but if she says yes, fine. The most aggression that's seen in bonobos is usually male aggression. But it's not, it's only been observed once, of bonobos killing another bonobo. And that was very recent. It happened a year or so ago, where bonobo females, there was a bonobo male that aggressed a an infant, a young bonobo. He did something like that was taboo. And the females ganged up on this male and kind of trounced him to death. It's really horrible. It was really shocking. I mean, nothing, we'd never known of any case where bonobos have killed another bonobo. That's the only time it's ever been observed.
Were you near the situation?
No, I was not. It was, I know the researchers, it was in a site that's led by Max Planck Institute, Germany.
Do the male bonobos have sex with each other?
Do the male bonobos have sex with each other? They do sometimes. They do penis fencing and they sometimes have, yes, kind of dolphins do that as well. And they sometimes have anal sex, but the most of the same sex is female, which is GG rubbing. It's called genital rubbing, and their clitori are very large and facing, so they get together and do that. Yes.
Major animals are protected in the Peace Forest.
What other major animals are protected in the Peace Forest? There are a host of other species, including rare and endangered and endemic species, such as the okapi, which is also endemic to the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Congo peafowl, which is also only found in that country, numerous monkey and primate species. In fact, a brand new monkey was just discovered in the bonobo habitat. It was just announced last week. And, you know, there's all kinds of reptiles and birds, and forest elephants are there. They used to be all over the place. But sadly, in the 1980s, 70s, and 80s, elephants were practically exterminated in this region for ivory.
Is that new monkey, the orange lipped one?
Yes, the orange lipped one. Yeah. New monkey. Yes, Scott?
We've got a few questions here. I'll quick.
Okay.
How big do the adults get? And what's the average lifespan?
How big do adult bonobos get and what is the average lifespan? Bonobos they can be up around 5 feet, 3 to 5 feet, if standing on 2 feet. They are a lot stronger than we are. So, you know, even though they might be shorter, they're a lot stronger. And what was the other part of the question?
Longevity, lifespan.
Oh, lifespan. Well, bonobos they've only been studied in the wild since the mid 1970s. So there hasn't been a lot of longitudinal research to actually know for, you know, really precise numbers. I mean, that's happening now. We know that bonobos and chimps in captivity can live to be into their 50s or 60s, depending on their situation.
Were you the researcher in the 70s who began to do this work?
No, I was not. The very first bonobo research was done by a Japanese scientist named Takeyoshi Kano. And he rode his bicycle. Actually, our next blog post, if you get onto bonobo.org, our blog post that'll be posted next week tells some of the history. But Dr. Kano was this intrepid Japanese guy that went to Zaire. It was then Zaire under the dictator Mobutu, and rode a bicycle in the middle of the jungle. And people thought he was the devil because they'd never seen a Japanese person before. But he found Wamba, and that where the local people protected bonobos, you know, had the taboo against hunting, and so he established his research site there. But yeah, and I think that's part of why bonobos, they used to be called pygmy chimpanzees, but until it was realized that that was a misnomer, that they're absolutely two separate species. And bonobos are more lithe and gracile than a chimp. Chimps are kind of hulkier. So bonobos are not a pygmy form of a chimp.
Grass seal.
So.
What is Christine?
Graceful, they're much more acrobatic, they're not, they go up in the trees. I mean, really, they look like trapeze artists, the way they swing from vine to vine, and and their bodies are just more, they're actually more like human morphology. Their hips are rotated forward, which is why they can walk bipedally more easily, more often than any of the other great apes. So, yes, sir.
What's the trajectory of the population? You said there was 15,000. So do you have a figure that was 10 years ago, 20 years ago? What's the graph like?
That is also a estimate, because, modeling scientifically, people think there were probably over 250,000 bonobos at one time. But, since research and conservation has really only been happening in the past 25 years in terms of actual conservation work. And it's really difficult to survey. So that huge habitat is 500 square kilometers, has not been, every kilometer has not been surveyed. But there's been a whole lot more evidence gathered by the different groups that are working. And it's as few as 15,000. It's probably, based on the estimates and modeling of, consortia of scientists, it's most likely not more than 20,000. When we first started, we thought there were more like 50,000. Yes, we do use satellite technology, and but that's not, you can't survey for bonobos with that at this point. There are some interesting, we're talking to a group called Africa ASAP, Aerial Surveillance Against Poaching, and they use a blimp, and you can put any kind of equipment on this blimp, and it's silent and it can hover, so you can like drop cameras down under the canopy. There's new technologies for audio to pick up the calls, and also infrared, heat sensing. So I hope we can do better. Pardon me?
What are the calls? Mating calls?
No, bonobos, have voices. They call to each other. They actually, there's been a lot more research done on the communication in the wild, and even that's another recent report that has been published in the past year about that. It's been shown that bonobos combine different calls or sounds to create a different meaning, which is compositionality, which has been believed to be, a very strictly human trait, that was, our ability to speak, and to combine words to mean something different. So, but we have a whole lot to learn about how they communicate with each other. But there are different sounds and calls that are associated with different behaviors or in bonobos. Yeah. I love to hear the sound they make when I'm sorry I don't have it queued up, or I could play you some bonobo sounds, but when they're eating and they really like something, they go, so like, yum. Yes.
Yeah, my question is, what could humans learn from bonobos? Sort of like if you were to come up with 7 habits for highly effective humans to be more like bonobos.
Okay. Say that one more time, Victor, please.
Seven.
I would say 7 highly effective habits for humans to be more like bonobos.
Okay, 7 highly effective habits for humans to be more like bonobo. Well, that could be a group question. See if you've learned anything. Put women in charge. Okay, number 1. Have more sex.
Yeah, let the women.
Let the women lead the sex. Share food and resources. Yes. Right. What else?
How do they, you mentioned there was a ranking woman that would get the best food or the flying squirrel. How do they select the ranking woman? Maybe we could copy that, whatever that is.
Well, that's a good point.
Their voting system.
Yeah, I know.
You know how
I don't really know because I don't know how much evidence we actually have about that, of how the leadership changes.
There seems to be one though.
Yeah, because it's not the daughter, the son of the ranking female becomes the ranking male. We do have peppercorn tasting for you all. If you want to stick around and taste some peppercorns.
We also have an evaluation form. Victor, do you have that?
Yes, it's on the table.
Where is it?
It's on the table.
Okay, so we just ask everyone to fill out an evaluation form before you go. Thank you.
Is it too hot?
Feedback.
I
So
think,
the
are people uncomfortable because it's hot in here?
I think it's because you're in front of the screen. So you
That
don't
was
feel-
cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You also have.
I must have
pens for
just-
everybody.
Well, let's get the peppercorns out.
Take-
Yeah.
That's the feedback form.
We have a fundraiser.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but that hasn't been set up yet.
The fundraisers in the back.
Hey, everybody. So they're going into now the peppercorn. Sally, can you, I'll mute you. Actually. I'll mute you. No, that's okay. So what I'm going to do while they're doing peppercorn time is I have a special video, thank you, that Sally gave me to show all of you. And so that's what we are going to do. So here we go.
I'm Ashley Judd, and after years of working to help all of us be free from sexual violence and finally to attain gender equality, I have learned about the most fascinating primate, the least known of all the great apes and highly endangered bonobo. Now, bonobos are very different from our other closest living relative, the chimpanzee, because unlike chimpanzees, and I might even say unlike humans, bonobos are always egalitarian, cooperative, they're deeply invested in the well-being of everyone in their community, and they're always led by an alpha female. Beyond that, bonobos are the umbrella species for one of the most important ecoregions on Earth, the Congo rainforest. By protecting these remarkable primates, we can save the very heart of tropical Africa, an ecosystem vital to the health of our entire planet. Bonobos live deep in the most remote part of the Congo rainforest. Though they share almost 99% of human DNA, most folks have never even heard of a bonobo. For their survival and for ours, it's time that we get to know them. Bonobos are remarkable for their intelligence, their compassion, and their social structure. They use affection rather than aggression to resolve conflict.
Is there any research being done on this?
And reinforce social bonds. Bonobos are found only in the very remote jungles of the Congo rainforest, which is second in size only to the Amazon. And its rainforest harbors incredible biodiversity and plays a critical role in sequestering carbon and maintaining Earth's climate. If it is lost, so are we. Sadly, time is running out for bonobos. As few as 15,000 remain in the wild. That number drops every year due to human threats such as hunting and habitat destruction. Thankfully, there is a plan underway that can save both bonobos and vast areas of the Congo rainforest. The Bonobo Conservation Initiative has partnered with indigenous communities and the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo to create the Bonobo Peace Forest, a connected network of community-managed reserves that protects bonobos, preserves the rainforest, and promotes local leadership and well-being. The Peace Forest is a project of the Bonobo Conservation Initiative, or BCI, which was founded by Sally Jewell Coxe.
The bonobos have really served as a flagship species in our work to protect them. It has led to protecting many millions of acres of incredibly important and biodiverse rainforest. Just up to now, we have officially protected over 9 million acres of bonobo habitat, with over 2 million acres ready to be protected. But what's so amazing is that the bonobo itself has been truly the motivator to protect these huge, large tracts of rainforest.
What we just want is you accept that.
Indigenous leadership has always been a central tenet of the Peace Forest. One of BCI's most important partners is Albert Locasola, founder of the Congolese NGO Vie Sauvage.
I met Ms. Sally for the first time in 2001. The bonobo is of great importance to our country. We signed an agreement creating a partnership to establish the reserve of Cocoloperi and collaborative work between Vie Sauvage and BCI.
The Cocoloperi Bonobo Reserve, which includes Albert's native village, was the first of its kind, a preserve set up for the protection of this unique and fascinating species.
The idea that BCI and Vie Sauvage had was to create a park where the human community and wildlife were not separated in a traditional way, but where the community itself managed the forest and where the community itself worked to develop local conservation.
The first thing we did at Cocoloperi and at every site where we work is to hire and train local trackers and eco-guards who follow and protect the bonobos. And that created employment and led to many other things that we've done at Cocoloperi, most notably to benefit the local community. The people had no access to health care, so we built a health clinic. They asked for an institute of higher learning in their region, and we co-founded a technical college in the territory. We've intervened for sustainable agriculture. We've started microcredit programs with the local women's cooperatives.
Cocoloperi is also a critical study site for bonobo research. A win for bonobos, a win for the forest, and a win for local people, the Cocoloperi Bonobo Reserve is a game-changing model for conservation in Central Africa.
We've developed our model for the Bonobo Peace Forest, which is actually replicating on its own. So now we have multiple sites throughout the habitat where local communities are protecting their bonobos and their forest, and they want to create protected areas as well.
I'm proud to present you the Bonobo Peace Forest partners, starting by Cosmas Bofangi, who replicated the experience of Cocoloperi in his home area.
Each of these local leaders is rallying their communities to protect bonobos and save the rainforest. The growth of the Peace Forest is a beacon of hope for this critical ecoregion.
Le bonobo, c'est l'espèce phare.
This animal is intelligent, with an irreplaceable role in the ecology of the forest. As we live in a period of global warming, we must protect these apes. What is the most powerful means of protecting the forest? Is to protect the bonobo, because the bonobo and the forest live together.
Our connection to the bonobo extends beyond our close genetic past, right up to the present day. And it is up to us whether or not the bonobos have a future. In the last 30 years, the human population of the Congo has doubled, while the number of bonobos has been cut in half. If these trends continue, we will lose them as a species. Humans are bonobos' greatest threat. We are also their greatest hope. By supporting the Bonobo Conservation Initiative and the Bonobo Peace Forest, you can help create a future for bonobos and all life on Earth.
I'm going to go back to Sally for a moment. Sally, unmute yourself, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm just gonna try to get the slideshow back. Is that showing? Is that showing to the Zoom people?
I'm just looking at,
Okay, so
add the amounts together.
let's see.
And multiply it by 3.
It's the fourth button to the right.
Yeah,
There.
the light is in my, can't see.
Here we go.
So who's got theirs continue?
Yeah.
And I'll hand it back to you if you want.
Oh, no, it's okay, I can remember.
Okay.
Oh.
And
Okay,
then
now-
Evaluation forms, I'm happy to pick up the evaluation forms. if anybody-
There's a QR code.
Here's also,
So, hey, everybody, there's the QR code. And if any of you want to donate additional, I want to thank all of you for buying a $5 ticket and being with us tonight. This is the last couple of minutes,
Sally,
but
very
if you want to
impressive, I have to
donate,
say.
that would be really wonderful.
Very light.
So I'm going to leave that up for a few minutes.
This is gonna be nice,
And I
Sally.
will look
Yay!
forward to hopefully seeing all of you on Saturday night for our
Anyone else want to hand in a
an evening with 4 wise women.
Give them back to
Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you've all really enjoyed the program
All
and
right.
what Sally has to say.
Carly, you did great. All right.
Sally, I'm going to read, just since my Zoom room is almost over, one of our people created a special gift for you, which is really, really cool.
Our
How
collective.
sweet.
That's Dorina Joy created a very special gift for you. People are thanking you, and there's a lot of appreciation coming in the chat
Oh,
box.
thank you. Can I see the chat? Can we save the chat so I can see it?
Yeah, I'll save the
after?
chat.
Okay,
I'll save the
that'd
chat
be
for you.
awesome. Thank you all. I'm so happy that you all came.
Thank you,
Sally.
Appreciate
you.
Thank you.
Is that right? I'm about to announce it.
I'm still working on
I'm still working on his.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to
That's here, I'll gather the figure.
end the Zoom room now. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope to see you on Saturday.
Anybody have a feedback for me, want me to have? So this is a draft. I created this so that we could get some